A fender bender turned violent. A driver clipped another car, and instead of trading information, one driver traded blows. All of this was caught on camera. It's rough to watch. At one point, a passenger was knocked out cold. Want to get out to News 4's Mark Santia live in
So that's the son, that's the dad. It's difficult to watch a man, an elderly gentleman, get knocked out, especially in front of his son, who is there and not able to protect his father, and you could tell not able to fight very well either. So a few things. First and foremost, road rage is probably one of the most common ways for men, especially, to get attacked. In this case, you have to stop. You have to pull over because that's the right thing to do if you've been in a fender bender. It seems like they're not denying. It seems like it was their fault that the fender bender happened, and accidents do happen. The perpetrator is clearly very upset and is apparently asking for $1,000. Look, if you have insurance, you never have to pay anything at the spot. Get the information. That's all you're required to do, to leave your information and your insurance information and a copy of your driver's license. It's always good to take pictures and video in case you don't know if they're going to claim that it's your fault when it wasn't, or vice versa. You feel like there's additional information that needs to be covered in a case, even if it is your fault. That's it. However, if you are threatened by the person, you could tell the good people that didn't expect him, that he was trying to be polite and the man is asking for $1,000, you shouldn't pay it. He did the right thing not paying it. He said he didn't have it. But even if it did, you shouldn't pay that $1,000. He knocks the father out, then hits the son as well. He's got some power in his punches. Hits him a few more times. And it calls it humiliating. I don't know if I would call it humiliating, but I can imagine that it feels like that to him. That's humiliating that he says it here, couldn't help and defend his father. He felt helpless not being able to protect his father. And he's screaming very loudly. Which is good. It draws attention. You see more people showing up, but it's cowering down and concerned about getting hit again. He does get hit again. So you see that just covering up is not going to help the situation. The man takes their wallet and the phones, which is robbery. I don't care who's at fault when it comes to the car accident. You don't have the right to take someone's phone and wallet. That's stealing. With the footage that's of the guy, I'm sure they were able to find him. But the most important for you to understand is once you can tell that the person is very violent and wants to fight, get back in your car and drive off. Get back in the car, lock the doors, and call 911. If any additional threat is presented to you, such as they pull out a gun, or maybe they have a knife on them, or they start hitting the window or breaking the window even, drive off. For your safety, you don't have to stay there. You should stop anytime you're in an accident. But if you're threatened by the person who's there, or you have fear for your life, you have the right to drive off. If you can't drive off, walk away. And more important than anything, this man is going to live with guilt for the rest of his life that he couldn't defend his dad. Learn some basic self-defense. It's not always to fight back. It's to de-escalate a situation. If both of them knew a little bit of basic self-defense, this probably would have ended very differently.
Walking down the street was attacked in broad daylight, and now cops are trying to find the culprit. Surveillance video shows the terrifying encounter. Police in New York say this man was following a woman walking down the street in Brooklyn, and when she turned a corner, he ran and jumped on her back, tackling her to the ground. He is seen holding her down for a while, and that's when police say he put his hands down her shorts and grabbed her buttocks. He then let go and casually ran away. Investigators say the victim was
So it's important to understand that no matter how careful you are, how good your awareness is, you might not be able to foresee an attack from happening. Here, the man is coming up from behind. He runs up, jumps on her back. Maybe awareness could have alerted her that there was someone behind her who was kind of following her. But that's not always the case. It's important to understand that no matter how good and how aware and how careful and how cautious you are, you might still become a victim. Once the man is on her back and jumps on her back and she falls over, even that you can't stop necessarily, right? You don't expect someone's full body weight, say that he's about 165 pounds. When they jump on top of you, her legs kind of buckle and she falls down. Once she's on the ground, however, what she should do, with a little bit of basic training, is to turn to start facing her attacker. You can tell by the way he attacks her and the way he's on top of her that doesn't really know what he's doing as far as fighting wise. He's pinning her down with the hands, has no control over her body. So she could shrimp out so that she could face him, and then from there get her knee between herself and the attacker. You can see that her body is facing away from him and is pinning. But if her feet were posted correctly on the ground, she can rotate her body, face him, get her legs between the two of them, and kick from there, which would stop. Again, in this case, he groped her, grabbed her, and then let her go, took off. Maybe because he got scared, maybe because he was detected by someone, you don't know. Maybe she was screaming. But it could have ended much worse, right? And from that position, you could tell she's shocked. You can't really get her footage once he lets go and takes off. But again, that has to be trained as well. The move in itself on how to turning towards him, get your feet between you and your attacker so you can kick him off, is part of the training. The mindset is also part of the training. You can tell she's shocked. And even if you know how to defend yourself and you know how to fight, you're going to be shocked. The difference is you'll be able to go from freeze to fight much quicker.
Breaking news at 11. A frightening attack inside an elevator. A man suddenly grabbing a woman, putting her in a chokehold, and then dragging her down to the elevator floor. Tonight, there's been an arrest in this shocking attack. The video begins with the woman standing at the elevator door. The moment is open.
A very common thing is that the attacker would try to stand behind you. We see this in elevator attacks over and over and over again, standing behind the intended victim. So one of the most important things is to always face someone in the elevator. Sometimes you feel like it might feel aggressive to turn towards someone, but you don't have to follow laws of behaving the correct way with strangers. You can stand sideways to them. You want to stand away from them, but you don't want to have someone behind you in a confined space like that, especially because even if you're a great trained martial artist, you'll be at their mercy, right, when they attack you. So she's on her way out of the elevator. That's when it happens. So, but even if you're standing sideways, you're still able to see better as you're walking out of the elevator someone who's approaching you, right? He pulls her back into the elevator, pulls her to the ground. He's much bigger than her, trying to grab the purse, then starts hitting her, probably because she's not letting go of the purse. Again, when it comes to materialistic things, give it up, right? It's better than being pummeled, and you don't know if they're going to stop pummeling once they get the items. In this case, he gets the purse. The doors have closed. I guess it's going to the next level. And she stands back up right next to him. She's lucky that he doesn't punch her again. It's very, very common for attackers to throw one last punch or kick or knee in this case because she's still on her knees. It's better to stay on the ground. If all he wants is materialistic things, which in this case it was, right? And he's waiting to get out of the elevator, you can even stay on the ground. Position yourself so your feet are between you and your attackers. Unless you're willing to fight for that item, right? Then you should get out of the elevator and scream and so on. But again, a lot of times it's not worth it. In this case, he was throwing punches, but he was throwing the punches until he had the purse in his hand. He wanted to rob her. That was the goal. So the most important thing when it comes to all of this is don't give up your back. Don't let someone stand behind you. When they attack you, your goal is going to be to try to get out of that elevator because, again, otherwise they have X amount of seconds until you get to the next floor. And lastly, always give up materialistic things. It's not worth fighting for unless you're trained and feel like, yes, I can defend this. And then, again, if you can, when the person leaves the elevator, if you want to get out of there and scream as well, if there's people around, you can do so. But a lot of times it's better to just stay down, allow them to leave, and get new materialistic things that can always be replaced.
You drunk, bro. Go on and go, bro. You ain't supposed to be. Go on and go while you got a chance, bro.
Move this forward.
You fucking with the right one, bro. Go on and leave, bro.
You done met your match. He gonna
Just
sleep
go to
his
leave.
goof
I'm
ass.
trying to give you
They gonna
tools,
try to
bro.
sneak, but it ain't gonna do nothing.
I ain't trying to go get in the car and go, bro. What you doing all that for? Well, I'm telling you, hey, I'm gonna knock you out, bro. I'm telling
I'm
you.
get everything just for
I'm
this
telling you,
thing.
go, bro.
Hey, bro, watch out, bro.
I'm telling you, if he,
No, no.
I'm gonna knock him.
Niggas twice my size since
You don't gotta fight. I don't want to fuck you, bitch.
Stupid ass.
Don't
Stupid ass
touch
nigga.
me no more. Don't touch me no more. Get your
Get
ass
your
in the
stupid
car.
ass up. You get your stupid ass in the car. Now you got tears in your eyes. Now call.
Is it self-defense? It is, because the person is working as security, I presume. He has a t-shirt on saying security. And when you work security, you're watching a specific area, which means you can't leave. And having worked security myself and having a lot of friends that worked in security and having trained security, it's very difficult because you have to stay where you're at. A lot of times you're dealing with very intoxicated people, which I can only presume the other gentleman is right here. It's clearly a size difference. Clearly not a trained fighter who has what's called liquor courage. When they've been drinking, they think they're a lot tougher than they are. And the person that is actually defending themselves is the security guard. But from the one punch knockout, you can presume that he's trained. He's clearly strong. The problem here is the defense of the security guard. Why? Because that when you're dealing with a drunk person, you know you have a lot of power. If that person falls the wrong way, where they hit the head, they could potentially die or end up with brain damage and so on. And even though it is considered self-defense, clearly the other guy swings at him. He tells him to walk away. He tells him not to touch him again. And he tries again, right? He has the right to defend himself. Personally, I think it would be better to do a takedown and hold the person down, right? In this case, he's clearly not threatened by him because he's continuously speaking to him in a very calm manner. And in this case, I think for the younger guy, if he even remembers the next day, because he seems very drunk, it's potentially a good lesson to learn not to do that, to try to fight bigger guys that work security. Maybe drink a little bit less. But ultimately, the biggest threat here is to the security guard and having to live with having seriously hurt someone or potentially taken their life when it wasn't necessary. Glad nothing happened worse than probably a black eye or a little bit of a sore jaw tomorrow.
It all took place at this dispensary right here at about 5 o'clock. The man came in, said he was shorted in the amount of marijuana he had bought. He bought 7 grams and said it wasn't. So they waited again. Things escalated, turned into a brawl, all caught on camera. And now that man is in jail. A rejected return gets physical.
He had come in trying to return a product, saying that he received less than what he paid for.
Take a look at one man's reaction to being told by store staff they wouldn't return his purchase of pot.
And all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's over the counter grabbing stuff.
I was the one who initially helped him. I was the one who sold him the product that he had purchased that tried to return. When he first came in, I got a sense that he was a little off. You know, he was just a little unhingey. Sure. When I handed him the product, he stared at it for 2 minutes.
The twist to this over-the-counter reach, employees say the woman standing next to him identified herself as his mother.
She defended him after he attacked my coworker and after he attacked the other customer. She stood in front of him and protected him.
You can see the suspect punch another customer after being told to stay put.
So what you see here is a man who's clearly not okay. He's buying weed with his mum. He wasn't getting enough and wants to return it. I don't know what led up to it. But it's almost like a basic robbery, and they decided to jump in again. Sometimes it's not worth it when it comes to robberies. In this case, he probably doesn't have a gun or weapon with him. And you see a good Samaritan getting involved, another customer who's in there getting involved. And this is very, very common. When anger and rage is directed towards something, and then someone else gets involved. You see with animals as well. It's very common if you see a dog fight, if you jump in trying to stop it, that potentially one of the dogs can attack you. And that's exactly what happened here. A customer, a good Samaritan, is trying to get involved, and they get into a fight very quickly. And you see how close they are. Well, you have to be understand when you fight in a confined space, such as a dispensary, you you will be able to approach. You're already close to the person, right? And they're going to be able to approach very quickly. So from the distance they're at, you see they end up in a clinch very quickly, trying to hit each other. One, you have to worry about headbutts. Two, you have to worry about getting bit, right? So you might want to create some space, and you can do so with the shoulder or using your hand to push off. From here, you can throw a headbutt yourself, or potentially an elbow. And I can't really speak for the dispensary and the product they were selling because they're not really involved. The one who's actually defending themselves is the other customer, the Good Samaritan, who's trying to just get involved and help out the situation, and who gets ultimately jumped by the guy. No one got hurt. They're kind of hitting each other with arm punches to the back of the head, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't have ended worse. Again, if the person has a weapon on him, say he has a knife on him, when you're this close to someone, you don't see what's potentially in that pocket when the hand comes in to get that knife out and stab, or a gun. So you want to try to create space. If you end up that close to the person in a confined space where it can be difficult to get out, try to, again, use a hand to create some space so you can headbutt, elbow, and position yourself. In this case, the customer is here, and the perpetrator is here, and the door is on the other side. If you want more space, which you should, so that you can create space between you and the attacker, is to rotate yourself so you can get closer to the door. Ultimately, you see the perpetrator, the guy who started this whole situation, takes off out through the door. Again, happy that no one got seriously injured, and seems like this man needs more than just weed to calm himself down.